historical, and it's a milestone in India's future, I would say. The world loves to categorize people. We have categorized the world also east and west and north and south. We love to, and this is not a Bharatiya tradition. This is a very Western tradition to label this person is a chartered accountant, he's a Bengali, he's this. They like to define, create new jargons, and therefore you see this world has become so compartmentalized. It's a fragmented world we live in today. So one fine morning, after I came in good company of people like Swamiji and many others before him, and I got married in Chinmaya mission in Mumbai. So we are great followers from there, and I have followed all the great people. I was a filmmaker in a traditional sense. I was making feature films in a typical Bollywood style. Then one day I thought, what is the purpose of all this? What is the purpose of art or culture, whatever you say? See, art and culture is the soul of society, and not a society, but human beings as a society. That is the soul. The memes, the cultural memes, the philosophical memes, the artistic memes, all these things unite us. If there is no culture and art, people will start killing each other like we used to do when we used to live as tribes. And then I said, it's very important to tell our story. Our story means Bharat's story. And I believe, I'm convinced beyond any doubt that if this world, like the West says, very often love, harmony, human rights, unity, diversity, all this is possible only if the traditional, original Bharatiya philosophy reaches all over the world. Because we never believed in compartmentalization. We said this whole world, the theme of G20, which is Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam is not just a slogan. This is true, and I'll just prove it to you in 10 seconds why it is true. What is the fundamental principle of a family? Is it money? No. Is it success? No. Is it only love? No. The fundamental principle of a family is trust. And what is this world suffering with? Trust deficit. Wherever you go, people only talk about trust deficit. The masses don't trust governments, governments don't trust other governments, nobody trusts anybody. And therefore there is conflict. But if you look at Indians, in whichever part of the world, I have traveled most of the world, all of you must have also traveled. If you have observed, fine. If you have not observed, next time see it from this angle. Wherever in the world where Indians live, if you ask their population, their people, who do you trust most? They will say Indians. I have studied in US, and there was a saying generally that if you get lost, go and ask an Indian, he will take you home. And no wonder today we are shining as one of the most trusted community in the professional world, in the artistic world. I am making a film, just to give you an example, what is Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam? Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam doesn't mean 5 people living with a lot of smile and happiness and always saying good things to each other. It is also doing larger things which brings the world together with science and technology. I have just made a film called The Vaccine War. After Kashmir, I said I do not need to bring only bad news to the world, I should bring some good news also. Do you know that this vaccine and the pharma market, R&D, it runs into billions and billions of dollars. And all money is recovered by patenting your drug or your vaccine. Everybody worked for the vaccine. Many countries, powerful countries, came together to make the vaccine. In India, it was made by, you'll be surprised to know, any guesses, anybody knows who made this vaccine, Indian vaccine, our own indigenous vaccine? Everybody is ignorant, nobody knows it actually. This is what media has told you. Those are manufacturing and distribution plants, but the candidate, the isolation of the virus and the making the candidate on which you have mass production was done by the world's oldest vaccine research agency called Indian Council of Medical Research, and after that National Institute of Virology in Pune. And who made it there? 80% of them are women. And the women, if you look at them, typical Indian middle class, very housewife kind of women, if you look at them, most of the world, the Western world will say they are not empowered. These women did not go home. They stayed there for months and months. They would go home only for 2 hours. Wash utensils, because there were no maid servants, they washed utensils, cooked food for their in-laws, taught their children, and some of the principal scientists, these women scientists, one of them, her son went through PTSD and is still suffering, going through psychological treatment. Another one, her daughter developed some eye infection and it became so bad, became tumor and she had to be operated and she had a poor eyesight now. She is a victim of that. But mothers kept working inside the lab so they could service the entire society. And where is the achievement here? I'll tell you what. India made the world's first indigenous vaccine without any resources, and we did not patent it. When I tell this to people in the West, in America, they have invited my film, I'm going to Johns Hopkins and all these universities. They are inviting me not because we made the vaccine. They are inviting me saying, who are these strange people who did not patented it? This is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. I'll give you another example. One of the greatest artists and intellectuals of our country, I don't want to name because he doesn't want to be named. You know, one of the oldest, greatest persons, I mean anybody who sees him feels indebted for writing such wonderful stuff. I once called him and I said, I have read this piece of yours, can I use it in my speech somewhere? He said, please do, you don't have to ask me, because in the tradition of Hindu civilization, there is no copyright on knowledge. Knowledge and innovation is created for the welfare and the benefit of the entire world. This is what I So therefore I thought, with the power of cinema, I am not saying out of arrogance, cinema is just a medium, but it is the most complete medium. Because either you have sound or you have sight, but this is where you have the third dimension, and this is where the audience feels a part of that. I said, why not use cinema to first correct the wrong notions about India? Wherever I went, everybody said, oh, in India, you people are trying to enter, sorry, I'm not want to get religious or anything, but this is a fact. Everybody in New York Times writes every day, Washington Post. They said, you Indians are trying to, with armed forces, take a Islamic state, which is Kashmir. I hope they don't say it about Bengal after 50 years. But nobody realized that some of the greatest knowledge of the world was created in Kashmir. The Greeks called it the knowledge center of the world. Your Panchatantra, Upanishad, Ved, Yoga, all these things, grammar, Buddhism. I said, let me just take this to the world. What I am trying to impress upon you is, it is very important for the world to understand. There is only one civilization in the history of humanity which never ever conquered anybody with swords or guns or with power. How did we do it? With our knowledge, with our philosophy, with our wisdom. People talk about that this religion is spreading, that religion is spreading. I am not very bothered about which religion is spreading. Hindu civilization's philosophy, Bharat's philosophy must spread. And that's why you will find, before I end, just want to give you an example, the power of knowledge. Why East is different from the West? Why West is not spiritual and most of the East is spiritual? Where has it come from? It has come from only one innovation, one discovery called Dhyan. Dhyan, after 1,000 years of Shastra with Buddhists, finally when Buddhism got synthesized and when Hindu and Buddhist scholars started traveling, it reached China. In China they don't have this swar, this sound called dha. For dha they have cha. So that philosophy in China became Chan. And if you go to Vietnam, Korea, Thailand, whichever country you go in the East, either it is cha or dha or pa or va, it keeps changing. Ultimately it reached Japan. In Japan, since it traveled through China, they don't have this word dha, it became Zen. Zen became a management philosophy which turned around Japan, turned around America, and today most of these biggest of the corporate companies follow the philosophy of Zen without realizing actually the seed is Dhyan which has come from India. Bharat is the only society and civilization in the world which has consistently for last thousands and thousands of years has conquered the world with wisdom and enlightenment, and that's what I think is the story I want to tell the world. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Clearly you've generated as a storyteller enough track moments for your talk so far. Getting back to you soon, but for you, Meenaji, music again is one of the oldest forms